Hello and welcome to Romantasy Readers Podcast. My name is Nicole and I am joined as always by my fabulous co-host Alley, all the way from Utah. How are you today?
I'm doing good. As I was telling you before we started, I've hurt my foot a little bit.
Oh,
This is what happens when you get older. If is like you can just be doing things like going to get the mail and you just fall and hurt yourself. So
oh no. We were
but
just,
other than
like,
that, I'm
Alley just
doing
told
well.
me and we were saying how it's like you want to have this great story of like, how you were trying to do a
Yeah.
bike jump or something, or you were rescuing a child from getting hit by a car and then you hurt yourself. But no, it's more just like, oh, I just got out of my seat wrong and I fell off
Yeah.
my leg.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I just took one step where I shouldn't have walking down my front porch and
oh,
I think I
well,
might have at least sprained it. But other than my foot being a little painful today, I'm doing well. How are you?
oh, I'm good. Well, let's just cross our fingers that it's not too serious. We'll send some like positive vibes that
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
serious and it's going to go away. At least you're going to have plenty of reasons to read plenty of books over the next week. So you're going to have
That's
to rest
true.
and elevate that foot. So,
Yeah. If it has to stay like wrapped or elevated or in a boot or something, like that's gonna be pretty good because then I can just read.
exactly. You're going to have really good excuses. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good. I'm back into normal life now. I am just getting back into my groove from being away for such a long time. And I've just been going nuts on books. That's the truth. Which we'll be talking about shortly, but I have definitely had a few great reads that I have been obsessed with in the last week. So
Me too, me too.
without further ado, let's jump into it. Allie, what are you currently reading?
Okay, I have 2 things for you that I've been reading. I read the, like, hyped all over Bookstagram book, Lights Out,
Okay.
which
Yes.
is, like, a dark romance. It was my first dark romance. I know you had read
Oh.
Haunting Adeline. I had never read a dark romance, so this was my first, like,
Mhm.
true dark romance, and then, like, I had people on the internet telling me, like, "It's not even that dark," like, and I was like, "Oh gosh, it seemed really dark to me." Um
You were like this little innocent romantic person going, "Oh my god."
Yeah, yeah, right. It's a stalker romance, which is very interesting,
Okay.
but consensual dubious consent is what I think is how you would describe it.
Okay.
Um, the thing is, it was a good story, and I think
Yeah.
that's what is making it so popular. It was a
Yeah.
really, really good story because the woman, like, knows this guy, and then he
Mhm.
finds out that she's, like, really into, like, masked men on the internet, like, she
Oh,
follows
okay.
them,
Right.
and
Mhm.
actually she's following him and, like, really into him, and
Okay.
so then because he knows her, he's like, "I'm gonna go and, like, in my mask and, like, pretend to, like, stalk her."
Mhm.
So he does that, she figures out who it is, but then she ends up with a real bad person interested
Oh.
in her, like a serial killer, and then they accidentally kill the serial killer, so then it's like that's like all this craziness ensues,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, it is, like, a really good it's almost like a thriller in addition
Yes.
to this, like, dark romance,
Right.
so I
Yeah.
really liked it.
It
I thought it
it
was good, yeah.
That's good. It sounds like it balances that fine line of where
Yes,
it's
it does,
exploring
yeah,
that, but for anyone that's new to dark romance, it's not going too far where it takes you too far and you go, "Okay, that's just crazy," which I think for me,
yeah,
Haunting Adeline, that really went to that next place where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, this is like,
yeah,
she doesn't
yeah.
seem to be enjoying this. She doesn't seem to be consenting. Like, yeah, it was full on. Whereas this one sounds like it's a bit more fun. It's a bit more,
It reminded me
uh,
a lot of, like, Butcher and Blackbird. It was
yeah,
very, like, tongue in cheek, you know what I mean? Like, very funny, lots of humor at the same time that it was being dark. So it's almost like a
mhm,
rom-com, thriller, dark
awesome.
romance. But it makes sense why people are, like, obsessed with it because the story itself is, like, absolutely addicting.
Yeah.
So can I ever love a book as much as I love a fantasy book? No, like, I just won't ever. It's nothing like that is ever gonna be, like, a 5, 6
Yeah.
star book
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, but yeah.
But if you compared it to Butcher and Blackbird, where would you rate it compared to that one? Is it the same? Is it
Ooh, that's
better?
a really good question. That's a really good question. I'm gonna say, this is just like gut initial reaction.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say a little bit better than Butcher and Blackbird.
Ooh, I like that.
Because both Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark, I feel like take a while for the like romance that you're bought into to kind of really start, especially Butcher and Blackbird.
Yes.
Whereas like this one, they're kind of into each other right away,
Yes.
you know, but there is still a lot of like romantic tension.
Yes.
So I think just from a pure like my own enjoyment perspective, I think I like Lights Out more.
Ooh.
So
All right.
yeah.
Sounds like I have to
Yeah.
go give it a try when I'm ready to move away from Romantasy for the next
Yeah,
time
it was a
and
really
get into
great palate cleanser. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. All right, and you've got one more that you've been reading.
So I also I'm in my hockey era. Okay, as I was also just telling you before we got on this podcast. I've been going to a bunch of ice hockey games. We just call it hockey in the States, but
Yeah.
you say
Yeah.
ice hockey, it makes sense because you probably have other kinds of hockey in Australia. There's a brand new like NHL team in Salt Lake, so I've been like going a bunch because the tickets are cheap. And so I asked my followers for like a bunch of hockey recommendations, and I ended up reading one called Pucking Around by Emily Rath. It's a Why Choose romance, and it was also my first Why Choose romance book.
Yeah.
And so it's MMFM is what it is.
What? Okay, I don't even like. Okay, I'm gonna sound like a complete noob here and be like, "Wait, what is Why Choose? Is that just like there's multiple people and they're like, well, why do I have to pick between you guys? Let's just
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
everyone."
Some people like refer to it as like reverse harem, but I think it's like that's kind of an old outdated term, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like Why Choose, and it's yeah, MMFM. So there's 3 guys and 1 girl, and she like falls in love with all of them, and then she's like, I get to have you all, and they're all into it as well. So good for
I
them.
have one ice cream flavor, but I can have 3.
Well, and they're all hockey players. So it's like, why have 1 hockey player when I can have 3 hockey players? And they're all like, yeah. So it I'm not sure that genre is for me, just totally being honest. Like it's, and not because like I like have any like thing against it. It's just in order to get to like build and develop and have spicy scenes for that many characters, there's no slow burn.
Yeah.
You know, there's no, they pretty much just go right into the spice. And I like the slow burn, you know, like I want there to be the romantic tension. And so I think it just didn't necessarily do it for me from that perspective. But it's
Yeah,
really well
yeah.
written. Like
No,
it's a really well written book.
yeah, probably the most similar book I've read to that is the Ravenhood series, which starts with a bit of that Why Choose. She explores a relationship with 2 different guys. And I was like, look, it was fun and it was very spicy, but I was having trouble feeling like, for me, my brain just kept going to, well, which one is she going to choose for real? For which one is she going to choose for real? But the interesting thing about that series is, let's just say another character comes into it at the end of, I think it was the 2nd book, and then we suddenly get the real romance. And it's like, and when that one's involved, there is no one he's sharing her with. I think I've got a thing about, I want a guy that's kind of like a bit like Kingfisher, where it's like, no, there's me and no one else. Like, you are mine, and I'm keeping you caged in this room, and you're only allowed for me, and no one's allowed to touch you.
Yeah, we like that trope. No, you're mine. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting like that is how that would happen, because I feel like, you know, a lot of people like Why Choose romances because they're more reflective of like their own kind of interests and like preferences. So it's kind of like, you know, I'm sure people who really like Why Choose romance would be very frustrated with like the Ravenhood series, where it's like, oh, like, you know, like it was very clear in this book, like she's not going to choose, like they can all love each other, and that's good. And it was, again, it was very well written. It just wasn't, again, it doesn't have the tropes that I like. You can't really have the slow burn. So
Exactly. It depends on which audience you're aiming for. If you're aiming for an audience like us that maybe want to experiment a bit with the Why Choose, but then ultimately still want a all-encompassing kind of love at the end of it, but just between 2 people, that's for us. But if people want that traditional Why Choose, which is not traditional, you know, which is more about exploring a larger relationship, then like obviously sounds like Pucking Around is right for you. All right.
Right for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you been reading,
I've been
Nicole?
reading.
I have talked for a long time about
I've been doing so much. I've been doing so much. Okay. Firstly, I read the new, well, I've been on audiobooks. Oh my God, so many audiobooks. All right. I have listened to Danielle Jensen, The Twisted Throne, which I was obsessed with. Oh my gosh. I've not had a book in ages where I just started it and then could not stop. Like just could not stop. And it's
exciting.
really fast and entertaining. It's what Danielle does really well. And she's doing it. And honestly, she's so on point right now with just A Fate Inked in Blood. It's just so entertaining from the minute you start. You just get so just caught up in the drama and what's happening with the characters. And then you just want things to, no, it's just constant entertainment. So as I say, you just can't stop listening. And then, oh my God, I mean, I obviously can't give anything away, but the ending is crazy. The crazy.
She does the best ending.
I was not okay.
Thing, you know?
I literally messaged her and I was like, you are the queen of cliffhangers. Like freaking hell. I am just dying. Like I just sat there just like, I should have done a reaction video because I was just there.
Yeah.
Last like 50 pages just going, oh, I was just like in pain and agony. Oh my God, it was so, that's why I'm just like, Allie, go immediately and listen to this, please.
I know. I'm like, sometimes when I know that a book is going to break me, I will like procrastinate because I'm like,
I shouldn't have told you.
In my life. I'm really happy with my little like hockey romance where she just gets all the guys and there's no cliffhanger and everything's fine. I am going to do it next though. When I finish, I've got one book I'm reading. I'm always reading like 3 books at once. So I am about halfway through Reign of Rose as well still.
Yeah.
So as soon as I finish that, I'm going to get the audiobook of Twisted Throne and read it. And then we can do it.
I'd actually had it sitting there in my Audible for like honestly a week or two. I think I got it straight away, but I was reading other things. I was like, oh, I'll get to it. Now I just had some time. I was doing housework and I was like, oh, I could listen to an audiobook right now. And then the rest is history. Once I started, I just could not stop. I absolutely loved it. Then I've also the Quicksilver audiobook is out. So I have been listening to that. I've got 7 hours to go and that has been amazing. Like so just another level where I've read this book and then I even was doing a reread because I read it on holidays, which means I was a little bit like, did I really absorb it all? I wasn't sure. So I need to do a refresh. But what I'm picking up, especially because you've got 2 actors, so you've got the dual POV and you've got them bantering back and forth with each other. And it's just, it really outlines how good the writing is. I think it really outlines just, there are elements to that I just didn't pick up in the read that I'm picking up now listening to it. And it's just added so much to the actual story. So I'm really, really loving it. Highly recommend, even if you've read the book, to go and do the audiobook as well.
That's awesome. I have to ask you though, what was the price of the audiobook in Australia for you?
Well, I have the Audible, like the membership thing.
Yeah, like the credits. Yeah,
the credits.
So if you didn't have a credit though, what was the cost? Do you know?
I didn't know.
Okay. Let me tell you, in the US, if you don't have a credit, it's $60 US.
60?
Yes. I'm going to do USD to Australian dollars right now and tell you how
that's like $100. That's like $100 in Australian. That's just insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. It's like that's like $92. That is insane.
Criminal.
I am out of credit. So I wanted to get it because for this episode so I could listen. But I'm out of credits this month. And like sometimes when I run out of credits, I'll just buy the book. But I was like, oh no, I gotta wait for my credits to refresh because I'm not paying $60 for an audiobook. That's crazy.
I mean, the male actor is great. I'm not gonna lie, like he's awesome, but not $60 worth. Like it's an audio book. Like you don't even have a physical copy that you can put on your wall. Like I'm already complaining about the price of books just in general because obviously we now love these beautiful books and they're almost like artworks for us, but some of them are so expensive and it's just I would
struggle to pay $60 for a special edition book, to be honest with you. Like I would struggle to pay that much for like a sprayed edges with amazing artwork. So I get it. I think she's still indie, or at least this was produced.
Could be
indie.
Why. I think we've
I get that like she probably doesn't have great, be able to like negotiate discounts or something like that. And I want artists to be paid for their work, and I get that it's also like a 600-page book, so it's really long, but $60, man.
Well, I know some people, some of the authors we've had on here have said that it can be really hard as an indie author to keep prices reasonable, and to some, particularly in certain parts of the world, like for example, Australia can be it's just so expensive because they just can't get it here without actually being signed to a publisher. So it'll be interesting if that has something to do. Look, hopefully that's just a temporary thing. Hopefully it's just a glitch and the price goes down very, very soon, because look, I highly recommend people read it, but like go get your credits and just get it on credit, because just wait till November and then grab it on that one.
Okay, I just looked it up, just so you know. I'm so curious. So it looks like it's like 34 Australian dollars.
Okay.
Which is way cheap. That's like, I mean, that's still pricey for an audiobook.
It is.
But that's way cheaper than what it is in the States.
That's bizarre. Anyway, we'll have to try and understand that. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, because I put this on my Instagram and then I decided to watch it last night. This is a movie. I finally watched the French Beauty and the Beast last night.
I've never seen it.
No, I hadn't either, but I caught these pieces, these reels of it, and I shared one because it's just so beautiful, and it's got such a ACOTAR romantasy vibe, and just looks like it's hitting all the, the tropes that we love in these books. So I was like, I have to watch this, and I did. And look, it's good, but I'd heard a few people say that it's not that good, and I can see where they're coming from, that like it jumps a bit with the romance. It kind of actually spends a lot of time on the pre-story about like, which is right on point with ACOTAR, where like the dad is rich and he has 3 ships, and then they get caught in a storm, they lose all their wealth, and then they have to move from being rich and wealthy in the city to a poor little shack in the country, and then comes into the traditional sort of Beauty and the Beast story. But visually absolutely beautiful, and it definitely captures it in a few moments, but it unfortunately needed to get a bit more when it came to the actual like building of the romance between the Beauty and the Beast. That was the only thing it was missing. But it did make me think a lot about ACOTAR, and a future episode I would love to have about whether Tamlin and Elaine are actually going to end up together.
I am like all in on that theory. So I would be so happy to do that theory deep dive with you, because I actually think that's the case.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to explore all of Elaine's potential, who she's going to end up with potentially. I'm not like, this is absolutely what's going to happen. I think that Sarah's still got it open to a few options, and we're probably not going to know till the next book which way she's truly going to go. But she has certainly left some hints. It's very reasonable to say that Tamlin could have that redemption arc, and he could kind of go that way. And seeing that movie and seeing how the Beast was kind of quite bad as in his personality was bad. He made a lot of bad decisions, and that was what led him to being the Beast, and he had to redeem himself in many ways, and just made me kind of go, oh, this is so interesting. Like, anyway, we can go into it in a whole episode on its own, because there will be a lot to break down and discuss in that. So I think that's a future episode.
That's that's exciting. I should watch it. I should put it on just for fun. When I'm
it's worth watching just for how, like, I still really enjoyed it. It was visually beautiful and just so in line with like what we love in Romantasy. It's just Romantasy all over it, from the dresses she wears. Like she keeps just like looking over there, and there's a beautiful new ball gown that she has to wear that day, and it's like, oh no, another ball gown that she has to like wear, and everything just like magically appears. Like, oh look, there's just magically a dinner, like a whole dinner table full of beautiful food, and it's just it's so Romantasy. All right, let's get into our book, guys. So today we are reviewing Quicksilver by Callie Hart. As always, we will start with a bit of a spoiler-free section, and then we will go into the spoiler zone. So we will let you know when that happens, so you don't need to panic. Please stay with us for the next 10 minutes or so while we just talk about some of the basics and overview of Quicksilver. So to start off with, Ali, how did you get onto this book, and how did you read Quicksilver?
Everyone was talking. I read it a little bit after the hype, actually, because everyone had been talking about it for weeks and weeks. I was still deep in draft mode of my book. And so I did not read it until a little bit after the hype, probably like 2 or 3 weeks after the hype kind of started to cool down. Yeah. But oh my God, when I read it, I could not put it down. It is 600 pages, and I think I read it in 2.5 days. I was staying up till 4 a.m. and then just like barely getting any sleep, and then, and then reading it all day on a weekend trip. And it was, yeah, I could not put it down. I was so obsessed. You went on I was on vacation actually when I read it.
Mhm.
Thankfully, because otherwise I like having to work,
That would
you
have not
know.
gone down well. You would have been
Yeah.
working, and then as soon as you got, like, a break from meetings, you're just, like, pulling up your book and reading it in between.
Which
Yeah.
I've done. But yeah, how did you read it? You were also on vacation,
Yeah.
right?
I was. So this was pretty much the one and only book that I got through really quickly while on holidays. I'm a terrible holiday reader. I just can't concentrate on books when I'm on holidays. Wish I could, but I just can't. Anyway, this was really the only book that I saw all the hype and I was like, I've got to get my hands on this. So managed to get the ebook. And yeah, I probably didn't devour it in quite that quick a time, but by holiday standards, I think I maybe had it read in about a week, which was really good compared to everything else, which I basically just did not finish or just like zoned out of, like finished it, but with like zero enjoyment. So yeah, that was amazing, but I don't know if I absorbed it all. So I've gone back and I started to do a reread, but then the audiobook came out and then I've about halfway through the audiobook, which I am loving, absolutely loving. So yeah, I'm a multi reader this time. I'm just like doing
Multimodal.
all the vibes. And guys, so I can give you a bit more in depth today, at least at the first half. I can give you some more in-depth information, which I'm super proud of because that's not
Yeah,
normally
I
my.
remember nothing. I had to go back up. I could not even tell you. This is how bad when I read books really fast. I always remember the guy's name. I always remember the MMC. I could not until I did the research, like prepped our document. I could not tell you the FMC's name.
I think I was probably the same. And then any
Yeah, I
side
was like,
characters,
I don't remember
no
her name.
chance. No chance at all.
No.
Like I couldn't even I remembered I probably remember the spice scenes, like a couple of the major moments, but even the ending, I think I even saw one of your notes and I was like, wait, that happened at the end? I'm like, I can't even remember that happening. Like, yeah. So my strength zone today is going to be from the beginning to the middle of the book, just so we know. And
I found a really good summary online. I love it when people write true like summaries of books.
yeah.
It's so helpful. You don't. It's sometimes they're really hard to find, but I found a really great summary that
No.
helped me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like once I read the summary, like I remembered everything again. It was just
Yes.
like I didn't remember it.
Exactly. Just needed a refresh. That's why we thank them for their time. Anyone that does a summary, we thank them from their time from doing that. All right. So, what was your spice level? What did you say this one was from a spice perspective? What did you rate it?
I gave it 3 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my spice level might be just like really off right now because I'm reading this Y2's romance, you know?
Around. You're like, oh, there wasn't like 10 spice scenes.
Yeah. Oh, it's like way more than that. Yeah. It's like every other chapter. And so like I'm like, it's 3 out of 5, but like maybe Allie, who hadn't read this Y2's romance, would say 4 out of 5 because it's pretty spicy.
It's pretty spicy. And when the spice is spicing and so many, what I'm realizing, because I'm doing the audiobook and I don't always like using the headphones. So I'm playing it and then all of a sudden my kids are around and even if they're not in a spice scene, like Kingfisher's talking dirty to her. Like he's talking to her about stuff. Yeah. And so then you're like, and I'm muting this and I will listen to this later because children are around and this is not appropriate.
No.
Yeah.
I compare it though, because I feel like it's easier to kind of like do comparable series.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's similar to Plated Prisoner.
Agree, 100%.
But like just like a little bit darker. Like it just has a touch more like on the dark side, but still very similar, like a little kinky, a little dark, but not like a dark romance, I don't think I would say, since I've now read a dark romance.
Yeah, I would say 3.5 from the spice rating.
Definitely 3.5.
It's more about that when the spice is going, it is gritty and dirty in all the right ways. If you are a fan of the Plated Prisoner series, I think you're going to love this one as well. Very similar level and explore some shadow daddy aspects, which for anyone who loves a shadow daddy, that's definitely going to be right up your alley for this one. It's solid. If you love spice, this is definitely a great book. It's not over spiced. It's not, as I say, every second chapter or anything like that. But there's a great slow burn and then great.
Yeah, it builds up to it. The payoff, it's the spice is a payoff of their romance. And that is what I want and love.
Yeah. So, what is it about this romantasy book that you think is unique and different compared to other books? Tell us a bit about it and what you think is different, maybe
I
compared to other
l
books.
I loved the world building. I feel like the portals with this Quicksilver, so I'm
Hmm.
not gonna give too many spoilers or anything, but, the general principle is that there's these portals of Quicksilver, which is like a metal, that you can travel between realms, and I thought that was pretty unique, and then the addition of, like, the Fae with vampires,
Yeah,
kind of Jennifer Armentrout, but in a very different way. So I felt like the world itself was unlike anything I'd rather other
yeah,
ever
yeah.
read.
And there were just these little aspects. It's a really fun, light read. I love how we're dropped straight into the world, and the adventure literally starts from pretty much the first page. You're sort of dropped into this world where it's sort of dry and deserty. There's two suns, and there's a real shortage of water. And our main FMC is just always on, she's sort of scavenging, hunting for water. She has to, steal to survive, that sort of thing. And she is sort of running from the law right from the beginning. So you just get this just entertainment and adventure right from the beginning, almost a little bit Indiana Jones-ish, or even The Mummy, like
Yeah,
just kind of how it feels, like the vibe of the place. But then you've also got this great banter straight away with Carrion, who is a great side character that we get from early. And we're really just taken into it. And yes, we get this world where there seems to have been this old magic that's all gone and all been sheltered by this queen ruler who's we're guessing fairly evil, because obviously she is basically starving and denying people water in this part that Ceres, the main character, is in. And then everything that happens from there. We also find out pretty quickly that there might be a bit more to Ceres, whether she might have a little bit of magic herself, and we get to explore that. But it's just so entertaining. It's just if you are someone that just needs the action right from word go, this is very much your book. And I think that's why so many people are enjoying it, because it just catches you from the very beginning. And then the
right away.
quality of the
Mhm.
writing is also so good. I've actually even heard a few people say the writing is better than Akatar, which is saying a lot, That's the queen.
I would agree that it's better than, like, ACOTAR 1, actual ACOTAR,
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. But we haven't gone into it enough yet to really know whether we're going to have that level of story. But we're certainly
Yeah,
going to talk about a few theories and things today, because this book has definitely left a few Easter eggs, which are going to be super exciting to talk about. Yeah. I think the final
mhm.
thing I really enjoyed was the metal, this sort of magic of using metal, almost a little bit like X-Men, like, that's just like this kind of, I don't think we've
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
that as a magical power in a book that I can think of in recent times. We tend to
No,
see a
me
lot of the same
neither.
kind of powers, which are more elemental. They're more about wind, fire,
Connected to
but
the
we haven't
land.
had metal so much, and I really love how they've sort of explored that in this book.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right. So, have you got anything else you want to share in our spoiler free zone before we maybe start jumping into a bit more of the nitty gritty on this book? Anything else we should tell our audience about this book and why they should maybe read it?
Well, maybe just some of the tropes. So if you're like kind of wondering what are some of the important tropes in the book, we've talked a little bit about there's fae, there's vampires. It has the bargain aspect of fae, which I really like. I love a good like binding bargain and you get tricked into it, like
Yeah.
the fae being tricksters with their bargains. Hidden power. There's a one bed trope scene.
Oh
There's a lot of who
no.
did this to you. Like, so there's a lot of like your favorite kind of tropes
Definitely.
going around. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. I think it's got all those traditional tropes that everyone will enjoy, from shadow daddies, bit of enemies to lovers, magic, fae, vampires. Really, if you like Jennifer Armentrout, if you like Sarah J. Maas, Played a Prisoner series, all these things, this is
It's
absolutely
a
for
good
you.
book for you.
So, yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. All right. Well, without further ado, let's jump into our spoiler zone. So,
Yeah,
guys, if you've not read
spoiler
this,
zone.
exactly. Get into the spoiler zone. All right, leave now and go read the book, and then come back and join us for the spoiler zone. So, Ali, tell us about, what would you say were the best and worst scenes of Quicksilver? What did you like the most?
Okay. One of my favorite there's like a couple of these scenes, but they're all kind of the same, but it's all of their like really flirty banter in the forges. They always seem to be like when she's trying to forge the metal, she's like they're like flirting, and like at one point when she, when she like tricks him into stealing, what does she steal from him? Like,
The ring.
the ring, yeah, so that she can go in the Quicksilver, like, but he kind of knows, and he's like, and they like,
Yeah, he
they're
literally
like both
says, "You nearly
mutually seducing
dislocated
each
my
other,
finger
like,
taking that off."
yeah, yeah. I like loved all of the like the banter in the forges. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorite things.
Yeah, they did such a good job. I mean, I think it was great because they had these real enemies to lovers, but they all also kind of had, we can't keep our hands off each other. And it just kept being like,
Yeah.
he'd be teasing her. And then eventually she'd be like, oh my God, I'd never want you. I would never, ever want you. Not in a million years. The next thing she's jumping him.
She's jumping him,
yeah, grinding herself against him and trying to steal his ring, which he was actually completely aware of the whole time. But that's what kind of made it so fun and just very, very enjoyable. And plenty of just like lots of, spiced candy, as you would say, Allie.
Little ginger candies. Yes, we definitely got some
in the
ginger
lead up.
candies.
Yeah. So plenty of that along the way. You don't have to wait too long for that to kick in, which was great. I think something I loved, which was, again, just talking about the entertainment right from the very first page. I think Ceres is such an enjoyable FMC. She is really likable. She is funny. She's self-deprecating. You just like her from the first page, and it's so enjoyable to read her and be on her journey right from the beginning of the book, which I think I really, really enjoyed. It's not one of those books where you have to be a few chapters in before it becomes enjoyable. Really, from the first page, you are thrown in, and it's just absolutely a fabulous ride. So that was something I loved.
Yeah. I loved all of the bargains that she made with the Quicksilver and like the silly little requests that they had.
Read a romantasy book, like seriously, all of us listened to those and said, "Oh, you are screwed, girl!" Like that was you just like gave your life away right there.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, yes, I love that. But I'm talking about the bargains that she makes with the Quicksilver itself, like the little voices in her head, where they're like, "I want a song," where they're like, "I want you to like show me a memory or something." Like it's those are the I loved those as well. I love the bargains she made with Fisher. Don't get me wrong. But I just like love those silly little requests.
That is so cute. Yeah, no, actually the bargains she made with Kingfisher actually annoyed the crap out of me, because as soon as she's like agreed to it, I was like, that is the worst. Like that is so open-ended. He is gonna have you wrapped around his little finger now. And and then she didn't learn anything. Then she's like, wait, now I'm gonna determine the next one. And then she just doesn't even think about, making it like a closed question to make sure that like it can't be open to interpretation. But anyway, that's part of the fun and part of the journey. Yes. I loved the first kiss. So this was, I guess, also part of that forge banter. And this is where she steals his ring and she basically jumps him and grinds herself against him. And it's just once they start, they just can't stop. And it was just so fun and so saucy. And I just love how she's trying to tell herself she doesn't like him, but her body has completely other plans. So
on that same note, another one of my favorite scenes is their first dinner together, when he is like, have dinner with me, and then she sits in the chair and we don't know what it means, and we're like, and people are like freaking out that she's in the chair, and he's like, no, let her sit there, like, oh, and then you find out later what it means, and it's just like, oh, it's so good.
I know. And then at one stage, Carrion like offers to sit in the chair to be in between them because they're bickering, and like Kingfisher's like,
everyone
fucking sit in that chair.
It's so good. It's so good. And they're like, just like it's like the first moment that they kind of actually talk to each other for real, and it's you're starting to see the little connections form. It's so good.
No, I know. It's exactly. It's a really interesting enemies to lovers, because I almost wouldn't say it's a true enemies to lovers, because I feel like there's the enemies where they're real, like, you're my mortal enemy and I loathe you.
They're not real enemies.
It's more like they she just thinks he's really cocky and she doesn't like him, and he's just quite mean to her, and he's always telling her that she's useless because she's a human and things like that. It's almost more of a bullying kind of romance almost.
Yeah,
Say that, like, where because he's kind of picking on her a bit, being a human, and she just kind of keeps falling for it and trying to like banter straight back, and but then they've got all this chemistry underlining it, and it's really fun watching that kind of transition and change as they go along.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Any other favorite moments before we move on to our next section?
I mean, when she gets the mating bond or the mating tattoo, but she doesn't know what it is, and then she's, like,
Yeah.
sad when it disappears, that's, like, so good, I loved that.
I
And just, like, the way that it, like, transfers from him onto her skin, like,
Yep,
so
yep,
so
yep,
cool.
and I literally I just listened to that scene this morning, actually. Sorry, that was but then she's, like, gone up to him afterwards, and she's like, "What is this?" And she's like, "I didn't ask for this bird, it's on my boob." And she's,
Yeah,
like, so
yeah.
angry about it, and he's not.
And then she's, like, so mad that she has it, and then it's gone, and she's like, "Wait, no, I wanted that."
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Which adds to another heartbreaking moment a bit later, but no, that was definitely I love how they did that. That was very tricky and interesting and a trope
Yeah,
that we've seen in a lot of our romantasy books, but done in a different way, which
it's
was
in a different way. Yeah.
yeah, really,
Mhm,
really
mhm,
fun. All right,
mhm.
so let's talk a bit about our main FMC and MMC and have a bit of a breakdown. What are some of the things that you liked about Kingfisher and Ceres?
Well, Kingfisher is gonna make his way into some top
Oh yeah,
MMC book boyfriends. Especially if he, we'll see how he goes in future books, but he's on a good trajectory. That's hard to say.
got it.
Um, I loved his like all of his backstory and like learning more about his backstory throughout the book and how like he has this tragic past and he
Yeah,
was this like great lovable guy and then he gets like banished and then you find out that like oh he's been banished to kind of messed up situation.
yeah,
um
100%.
that's what I loved about him. um for her, you know, I don't know that I like found her that unique of a FMC,
No.
just being honest. She's your classic, like avatar for the reader, which is fine. That's what I like in a romantasy book.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are fairly, maybe a lot of us readers are similar people. So we all like the same sort of adventurous, self-deprecating, doesn't want to wear dresses, wants to fight
Yeah,
people. Like we have a typical FMC, and God damn it, it is really hard to shy away from that. I'm
yeah,
really yet to see someone do a really different FMC where I go, actually, I love this. Like I love
yeah,
that she's super feminine and wants to wear dresses and doesn't want to fight, but somehow like we have not really seen that yet. Maybe that's a challenge for some authors to sort of say, can you create an FMC that we love that doesn't
it's
meet all
different.
these traditional FMC tropes,
Yeah,
and make it really enjoyable because look, we do have a typical type, but it was extremely enjoyable still to read.
yeah,
And I like,
definitely.
yeah, I still really liked how she did end up in dresses and things. And she was all like, oh God, I've got to wear this. But it's like a beautiful midnight blue that's going to suit my eyes and things like that, which was pretty fun. I am probably, I mean, Kingfisher is, you probably even also say that Kingfisher is a pretty typical MMC. Like he's ticking all the boxes, but with his own little twist. He's pretty dark. He's pretty gritty. I kind of like how his magic has these shadow daddy shadows, but it's also like a
Yeah,
black sand and it's night and it's dark. Kind of wonder if there's going to be more darkness down the track. Like,
I feel like there will be. I feel like, I mean,
I,
he can't like the series won't be good if he doesn't continue to grow and evolve and we don't learn more about him and his power. Like his
yeah,
power has to get more
yeah,
strong.
yeah. And
So
let's
I'm
be honest,
assuming there will be more.
depending how big this series is going to be, how many books, it's it's a lot to keep that tension going when you have all that happen in the first book, which often
Mhm,
has me wondering if
mhm.
this is more than just a duology. Are they endgame? I still have a lot of questions, and you're going to be like, Nicole, this is ridiculous. We've had the mates thing; they've reconnected, but what the hell is with Carrion? Okay, like why did he say like I? Okay, I kind of love a bit of a lovable rogue, okay? And Carrion kind of
Yeah.
fell into this for me. Like right from the beginning, he's this lovable rogue and he's like, he bloody loves her. Like he's like, I love you. Like you're very lovable. And he's sharing quiche with her. And he's like, and I don't know whether it's just to have that beautiful probably banter because then Kingfisher gets so angry about all these things and it obviously added to a lot of like their story. But it's kind of not over for me yet. Like I'm happy with Kingfisher. Maybe I need a why choose at this
Maybe,
point.
yeah, maybe they could all be together. Well, and then that plot twist.
I'm kind of in pain here. I'm sort of just like, but I like Carrion as well. And now he's just gone full Fae and he's like doubled in size. And I'm just like, damn, like what's going to happen here? Like,
yeah.
you know,
and he's like an important Fae. He's like arguably more important than Kingfisher in terms of like, you know, the monarchy and stuff. So, like, what's gonna happen?
Like, what if Kingfisher ends up being bad or something? And like, even Carrion's kind of like, well, he doesn't have a sense of humor where I do. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cute. Like, I love a sense of humor. Like, that'd be really fun to explore.
Yeah. Or maybe he'll end up being with somebody else, or I don't know.
That's
it's gonna
be the more obvious thing. But I guess the feeling I have is just that he's so into Ceres. Like, and he's never, like, she's there going, oh my God, you slept with all those water sprites. Like, she's telling him off, but he never confirms it. He never confirms anything.
Right.
Played into it, but he never actually, like, she's like, oh, how many people did you sleep with after we slept together? And he's just like, you didn't answer. And then he was like, oh, maybe I did this thing to your brother because I wanted you to come and see me. Like, yeah, I'm just, I don't know, just watch this space, guys. I'm not convinced that everything is done with Carrion. I feel like he's still going to be, I don't know, I'm still in a belief that we might still have a bit of a triangle going on. And I don't know, we could still have some things to come. Or maybe we'll just get a great side romance, which would also be great. Happy for him to, you know, explore something too. We'll see what happens.
You know, a why choose would kind of make sense with how much Kingfisher hates Carrion, and to like see them then fall in love, and then it's like this throuple or whatever. I could get behind it, you know, like I could get behind it.
You're like, this is doable. We can do, except the Kingfisher does not want to share her, and he's lost to his genitals to remove her scent. But yeah.
Oh right, I forgot about that. Oh man!
All right, we've massively sidetracked.
What happened with him? Yeah.
All right, I've already gone into a theory, but we will get back on track and go back into anything else that we like about Kingfisher and Ceres before we move on to anything else. I mean, I think we've covered it. That just Ceres is very funny, self-deprecating. Kingfisher for me is just your typical dark shadow daddy MMC. I'm very interested to know whether he might become more villainy in the next book. Not that we've had the removal of the Quicksilver, like she's pulling that out of him, which is amazing. Yeah. So we've kind of lost that aspect now. But I don't know what's going on with, you know, just what else is going to happen in the next book. I feel like there's way more to this story than we've currently got. So,
well, and like my biggest question is what the F happened with that vampire king, I can't remember his name, who had some creepy, Malcolm, who had like a creepy romantic interest in Fisher. So I'm like, I feel like we have not uncovered or peeled back that whole onion, and like I'm wondering if there's like more trauma that Fisher hasn't revealed that we're gonna find out about that like will impact him, or you know, something that's gonna happen. But I don't know that he just like hung out in a maze for hundreds of years or something.
No.
I think that Malcolm probably, you know, exercised his romantic interest. So we're gonna see.
And that's another really interesting aspect is that Kingfisher he's bound. He's actually not able to talk about what's happened in the last like 100 years that he's been missing. So we know
now that Malcolm is dead, you know, like was that binding with Malcolm, and so now it's gone, or was it with somebody else? Like he might be able to talk about it now. We'll have to see what happens.
I know. Exciting stuff for the next book. All right. What were some heartbreaking moments? What were some moments that you found heartbreaking, difficult in this book?
Honestly, just learning about Malcolm's obsession with Kingfisher actually was pretty heartbreaking to me. The whole maze scene was like next level great, epic, like just so good. You know, I did not know what was going to happen. It was just like boom, 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 everything going on. And then
Mhm.
Everlane getting captured. It just all really, really.
That was, there needs to be tension, but it hurts. It hurts and it's hard and it's
Mhm.
hard to read, but so good. I think for me, some of the earlier aspects that were heartbreaking was obviously, first of all, Kingfisher's backstory. That's just super heartbreaking. And then finding out that he was going through the Quicksilver without his pendant to rescue Ceres, and the
Yeah.
impact that has on him every single time
Ah,
he goes
I
through,
know.
and that he was willing to do it for her, even willing to do it to go get her brother, which ended up being Carrion. That was definitely really, really beautiful and hard. I think
Mhm.
I loved the whole trope around the water shortage, the lack of water they have in the
Yeah.
third, when we first get there. I found that to be such a interesting, exciting, heartbreaking aspect of the story. And then when Ceres is first in the Winter Palace and she gets her first full glass of water, and then she's just like chugging this thing down. She's like, she doesn't realize she's given me like 4 rations in one. I'm going to scull this before she tells me I can't have it. And it's just cute and funny and heartbreaking. And that's the thing I love about how Callie has written Ceres, is that she has these kind of serious sort of aspects to the book, but she makes it so light and funny from the way that Ceres always
Yeah.
talks about it, which makes it really enjoyable to read, but also keeps you super just engaged in the story. So, yeah, there were a few moments for
Definitely.
me. Yeah. All right. So, do you think we should talk about theories now, or should we wait until the end to talk about theories? Do you think we should go through our other little parts that we go through first around favorite quotes?
Yeah. Let's go all through all our other stuff and then do theories last, I
That's
think.
right.
That
We're going to keep you
way.
guys waiting. We can't give you
Yeah.
theories right now.
No. Yeah, we gotta, like, keep going, refresh your memory, refresh our memory of the book so that then the theories really hit.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So let's move on to our favorite quotes. Did you have any favorite quotes from this book? And let me
Yes.
guess, are they Kingfisher?
Obviously, they're always Kingfisher. They're always the MMC. So many. I just picked one this time. Like, because
Mhm.
last time I feel like I got my quotes in the document and I picked like 5 and then I left none for you. So I tried to slim them
Yeah,
down.
I'm like madly trying to go through, like, where is a quote? I can't find a quote.
Yeah,
Allie's
that Allie didn't already take. So I kept it to one. Okay, so this is when I think Karis not Karis, Carrion.
Carrion. Yeah.
Carrion, I forgot Daniel Jensen on my brain. Carrion says something about, like, calls Sarah something like, "Oh, sunshine," okay? And he's
Mhm.
like, "Don't call her that." And then Carrion is like, "Why?" And then Kingfisher says, "Because she is moonlight, the mist that shrouds the mountains, the bite of electricity in the air before a storm, the smoke that rolls across a battlefield before the killing starts. You have no idea what she is, what she could be. You should call her Majesty." Like, holy shit. That's before they've, like, even hooked up, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure. Like,
man.
that is
Yes.
early on.
Majesty. Majesty.
Majesty.
Foreshadowing there. Foreshadowing.
I think that is definitely some foreshadowing, but
100.
I'm pretty sure Carrion is the rightful king, so what
Don't.
might that mean?
Oh my god, but they better
Did I
not be
just blow your
related.
mind?
That would be so funny if they were like, this was like a Luke and Leia kind of situation where they're related. But no.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Oh my god,
I
that
don't think
would be
so.
that would be crazy. Anyway, we'll have to get into that in theories, but that's blowing my mind a little bit, because I'm just like, why does she make Carrion so damn likable? God damn it. Like, I need it to
I
be more
know.
obvious so I can just like fully commit to Kingfisher. Like, because it's just, he's everything we want, and that's all I should want. Don't
Yeah.
make Carrion such a lovable rogue. God damn it, Kelly. You're making my brain confused now, because yeah. Okay. All right. We'll move on to mine. Oh my god. I was looking at one but it was such a spicy quote, and I was like, I actually can't say this with a straight face on the podcast, so I had to use a different one. Okay. Oh, obviously also Kingfisher. I'll be grateful for every second that I can say that I belong to you, Ceres Fane. 80 years or 18 hours, it doesn't matter to me. It'll still be the highest honor of my life.
Oh,
Aww.
that's so
So,
sweet.
so beautiful. Highest honor of
Yeah.
my life. I hope that's not foreshadowing as well. Like,
I
I don't know.
know.
We
I
haven't
know.
like we haven't got enough. Obviously, Callie being a new author, an indie author, we don't know what kind of author she is yet. Is she someone that's going to break
No.
our heart into a million pieces, or is she going to give us happy endings? We don't know yet
What are we
where
gonna
she's going to
get?
take us. If she's going to take us on twists and turns like Sarah J. Maas, or whether she's more going to stick to like, right, this is our forever FMC, MMC, happy endings. It's all up in the air right now. We just don't know, do we? We really need to
Yeah.
get her on so we can try and ask her our rapid fire questions and try and get her to answer some of these queries so we can
Mhm.
get a bit
Yeah,
of
we
an
gotta see if we can get her on for sure.
all right. What do you think is some of the best use of romantasy tropes in this book?
I thought the tattoos were
Yes.
pretty unique,
Yeah.
right? Especially as a
Love
way to
that.
indicate the mating bond, the mate bond, like, and that not just that they were there, but that they sort of like went from his skin to her skin, like, that
Yes.
was pretty unique. I thought that was a really cool use of that of the tattoo and the mating trope.
Yes.
So I liked it a
Yep.
lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. I loved, well, as I've sort of said, that there is a little bit of love triangle going on right now. Not that a lot of people will probably say, no, 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 it's pretty obvious as between Kingfisher and Ceres, which is absolutely 100% true. But what I say is just that she didn't make Carrion dislikable enough for me. She didn't throw in any deal breakers at this stage, and she just doubled him in size
No.
at the very end, which really just confuses my brain. But let's just wait and see
And
what
made
happens
him the
there.
king, like, he's the rightful king, like, there's yeah,
Yeah.
he's important, he's important, for
Important.
sure.
We've got Shadow Daddy. That's obviously great. I
Good
love what she
shout.
did with that. I love it's not just the shadows, but it's also sort of like this sand. I love this got this magical element that then he can just like cover you and all of a sudden you've got a brand new beautiful dress on and you're sparkling clean and
Yeah,
that was something I loved. Oh my God, I loved it. Like their first spice scene and she's like, oh, I haven't had a shower. And he's like, I
oh
want
my
you
god.
the way that you are. Like I want to taste you. And it was like, oh, this is hot.
Yeah.
And dark and dirty, guys. Just like, hopefully that's how you like it because that's how you get it in this book.
I mean, I would have preferred that they get cleaned up in a hot spring, but that's just me.
I kind of laugh because, okay, I don't think this is much of a giveaway, but in the Twisted Throne, like there's sort of a spice scene and then there's like, she's like, oh, he smells like soap. And I thought, oh, that's so Danielle Jensen knowing how much she just wants to make sure that people know they're clean, they
But they're
smell
clean.
they taste clean, like everything's clean, okay? Like just they're hygienic before
Danielle
things.
Jensen and she's after my heart, she knows what the alleys of the world need
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that.
Whereas Kingfisher's like, I don't want to taste perfume and soap. I want to taste you. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like winning right there. That should be one of my quotes. Why didn't I put that as a
Yeah.
quote?
You could have.
I think Fae and Vampires in one book. That was really interesting. I don't think we've seen that done since Jennifer Armentrout.
Yeah. Just the
Yeah.
Jennifer Armentrout books.
Yeah. Like often,
And
if you're
actually, are they even fae? I don't think they are. I think they're just vampires.
yeah,
think-
well, no, Malcolm is high fae. He's high fae that like
Well, he's
became
a high god, but they don't necessarily call them fae. But I mean, they kind of are. Yeah.
They did in one sentence because I think I literally heard that
I
line
probably
when they said he's
yeah,
high
I just
fae,
remember that
and
now.
that's why he's got this like additional power that no one else, like he can turn people and keep their soul, whereas the others, it's like if they bite people, they lose their
No,
soul.
no, I'm talking about in Jennifer Armentrout.
Oh,
I don't know
yes.
if they're
No,
fae
sorry.
in
Yes,
Jennifer
true.
Armentrout.
Yes.
I think it's just vampires.
Oh my God, it's been such a long time.
I was saying earlier, like, oh yeah, fae and vampires, like Jennifer Armentrout, but actually I think I'm wrong about that. I think there's the gods and then there's the vampires and that's it. I don't think there's actually
Yeah,
fae.
they were like demigods. Oh my God, it's been such a long time since I read
I know.
and the fire and the flesh is very gods, and she's a god, but I feel like, oh my God, I need to go back and read now. I'm just
I
like,
don't
I
know if
can't
they're
remember.
actually
I
fae.
feel like he was Fae.
Yeah.
But I know he was the villain, like, or whatever he was like, he wasn't one that was like possessed by his, like he needed to feed for his power and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you have to remind us, guys. It's been a while since I read that. So anyway, Fae vampires. Anyway, we know it's similar vibes and we love it. And I love a bit of vampire feeding or Fae feeding. I love that. That's always adds to the spice scenes, which makes it really fun. Yeah. So what do you think were some peak romantasy moments in this book?
This is my favorite question because it's always the moment to pick the like things that you kinda ate up and loved, but were also so silly. And so I have 2. I have 2
Okay.
peak romantically. The first is when he comes out of the Quicksilver for the first time, and she's like, "Oh my god, the devil." She's like, "The devil's come to get me," like, and we're all like,
Death.
"Oh,
He's
the
actually death. She
devil."
says, "Oh, this is death. He's
Yeah,
come to take me."
"The devil's come
And
to take
he is
me."
so
Yeah.
beautiful. He's so beautiful.
He's so beautiful. Yeah,
Big,
yeah, and
strong.
we're all just like, "Oh, we know that's not the devil. We know that that's not the devil."
Only
Like,
in the bedroom.
but we do want him to be a little devilish.
That's
And
right.
then the second one, I mean, this is so silly, but I also loved it so much, I ate it up. When he goes to get her brother and he gets Carrion instead because
Oh
she
my
still
god.
smells like him, or he still smells like her. It's such
Perfect.
a funny, silly thing that would happen only in Romantasy. I love it though.
Exactly, and I loved it, and it made so much sense to me. Like, I think I might have clicked just beforehand that I was like, "I bet he's gonna bring Carrion back," because we had such a build-up of Carrion as a
You
character at
couldn't just
the
have him
beginning
be
of the
done.
book, and then
Yeah.
he just goes to another world, and you're like, "Wait, you can't have a character with that much backstory and that much importance saying that he's in love with her and then have him just kind of disappear off page once she goes this other world." So it definitely made sense. It was a lot more entertaining to bring Carrion along to be part of this
Yeah.
journey. And then, if for nothing else, for the banter it created for Kingfisher to put him in a lot of pain and agony because, Carrion smelt like Ceres from Intimate Relations, which was
Mhm,
my
mhm.
favorite part. Was firstly the banter, and then just the whole scene about Carrion smelling like her and Kingfisher making him have a bath with this special moss and everything to actually get the scent off. It was just hilarious, so romantic-y.
Yeah,
Absolutely
so
just ate it up, just loved it. So funny, so
yeah.
good.
Well, and you know what's funny is after the fact, Carrion actually probably knew what the moss really did.
Oh my god, yes.
You know what I mean? Because he is Fae. Like, so he's pretending like he doesn't know what the moss does, but he definitely does know what it does, which again just adds to this like,
He's been
what?
playing with Kingfisher the whole time. Like, he's known
Yeah.
all along. When you
Yeah.
go reread and you know the ending, like, he's like, Kingfisher has bound her to the bed for 5 days, which really annoyed me, by the way. That would be such a deal breaker for me.
I
I
did
do
not
not
like
like
that.
being
Yeah.
kept captive like that.
No.
And then he comes in and he's all like, "Do you want to have sex on his bed?" Like, and he's like, "He won't smell it. He won't know." And she's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yes, he will." So he's acting like he has no idea about anything, but he
And he
totally does.
totally
He is
knows.
such a stirrer, and I love it. God damn
Yeah.
it, Carrion. You've got
Mhm.
my heart. Stop it. Stop it, Carrion. Oh, gosh. Just love a lovable rogue. It just always gets me. I love a bit of a character.
Mhm.
Makes me laugh.
Mhm.
It's just a real, like, I have my typical genre, like, the typical person that I like, the dark and the, morally grey. And then someone like that comes along. They're not meant to be my type, but then they totally are.
They
So,
totally are. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Did anything surprise you about this book?
Honestly, just how good it was.
Yep.
It
Yes.
was published indie initially. I think she got a book deal within, like, only a couple weeks of it being
Oh
out,
my
which is
gosh.
totally deserved.
Mhm.
It's just every beat for beat. It's a very, very good book. All 600 pages are really good.
How amazing is it that, like, books like this and the writing level is at this, with an indie book, that you haven't had the
Yeah,
support of a publisher and that to help you bring this to life, that you've done it
yeah.
yourself without knowing how much input they've had from, creative editors or whatever they've used to try and help bring it to life. But yeah, wow. And
Well,
beautiful
and
writing.
they've had to pay for those editors, right? They don't
Yeah.
just get those resources for free. You have to pay people for them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's really
No,
tough.
no, it's amazing. It's just that it's so good. For me, just entertaining from start to finish. It is just entertainment, every chapter, every page. It's so enjoyable, hitting so many of those typical romantic tropes, but done in a completely different way. And just, yeah, it is absolutely worth the hype. I think it's just so enjoyable. And I think, as I said before, I just love the use of the metal magic, that we hadn't really seen that before, really used in the romantic genre that I can think of off the top of my head. And I just really liked exploring that aspect of magic and what that might mean for the future.
Mhm. Mhm.
Any areas of improvement, anything that you didn't like or anything that you feel like maybe should have been done differently?
So generally, I feel like, this was a really, really good long book. It was over 600
100%.
pages. In many ways, it could have been split into 2 books, I think. I
Mhm.
love that it was in one because then we got all the information and the spice in one. But it did mean that certain elements maybe ended up necessarily having to be underdeveloped. And I felt like everything with the gods was a little underdeveloped.
Yeah.
The scene with that trickster god to me just kind of felt like it came out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Um, and not in a bad way. I just I didn't really know how to feel about him, and I didn't know a lot about him, and I feel like the gods are gonna be really important, and we didn't get to lay a lot of seeds about them.
Yeah, maybe we didn't get the right build up for it and the right intensity when it landed.
Yeah, and this is where had she split it into 2 books, she would have had a little bit more space to maybe build up the gods and
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
moment with the trickster god, I can't remember his name, the
Yeah.
chaos god be,
Yes.
like, a little bit more impactful.
Well, we don't get a lot of information about the gods because
No.
when she is back in the third, like they're so sheltered, they don't even really know the gods exist. They pretty much know nothing about gods. Then we learn a little bit when she's kind of going through a room with Everlane, and Everlane's kind of going through the various gods earlier in the book. But again, we probably don't get a huge amount of foreshadowing or a huge amount of detail about the gods and their importance, but I do also believe they're very important, and we might jump into that in theory
Yeah.
shortly. But yeah, that was definitely, I'm really glad it was one book because it would be painful to have it separated into 2. But I can definitely see where you're coming from. Could have just had
Yeah.
that little bit more development. For me, it was, as I just suggested, something. Look, I didn't not enjoy hardly anything in this book. It was such a good read, really, for me from start to end, and I don't have much to fault. Only that I found it really challenging when Kingfisher was controlling Ceres with the bargains. First, that Ceres kept falling for these ridiculous bargains that were clear as day that they were, thwart with open-ended demands that he was going to be able to use against her, and then keeping her in the room for 5 days. Like, that would just kill me. I know it was like for good reason because she had this poison she was getting out of her system or whatever, but I was just like, oh, like that would really piss me off. I do
Yeah.
not like being kept captive, like in a bed all day long by myself. That would not, I would have been pissed.
Pissed,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, for me, Sarah didn't even come back at him enough about that because
No.
I would have been shitty as.
And I don't really think he, apologized for it,
No,
you
and
know?
that's where
That's a
sometimes
little
Kingfisher has done a few things to her that are pretty mean. Like at the start, as where
yeah,
I kind of say it's
yeah,
almost a bit bullying. He was pretty mean and controlling to her. And while we love a bit of a controlling MMC, he did push that limit at some point. And he got away with
yes,
it
he
because
did.
there was just so much hot chemistry that they couldn't deny. But yeah, he was kind of tough, which that's probably again why I had such a thing for Carrion, because Carrion's so the opposite of that. He's so relaxed and just bantery, vibey. Yeah, he's the absolute opposite of Kingfisher. So stop talking about this, Nick. Stop being ridiculous. All right.
Are you ready for theories?
Let's jump into theories. We've put you guys through enough pain. Let's talk about the theories we have been left with from this book. So I think most of these are from me because basically I read it twice and I just started jotting all this down. So Ali's just going to have to listen to all these and then decide if she's got any input to say. Before I start, do you want to jump into anything that you have anything that you've taken away from this, or will I just get going with all
No,
my
you
thoughts?
just get in because I'm sure as you talk about a theory, I'll remember it and have opinions, as
All
I
right.
always do.
All right. Theory time, guys. This is the fun stuff. Let's get into what we took away from Quicksilver. The first thing is Ceres. There's an interesting line at the beginning where Everlane is talking about her royal colorings. She says that Ceres is a Fae name, and she says that she's very tall for a human, and she has dark hair, which is in line with royal Fae line. What do you think about this, Ali? I think this is very interesting details.
It is, and we don't get any information about who her father is, do we?
No, well, I think he's just her parents are both dead. We only
Yeah.
get a bit about I don't know, she's got a straight nose like her dad or something like that. We get little bits like that. But we don't get any idea about her because she also doesn't know how she's been blessed with this magic. She's like, I have no idea why I've got this. Does everyone from the third have this? She doesn't know. She's very confused about why she's the particular one that's got this. So I think that's
And
very
like I do feel that we can rule out that Carrion is her father. I think that would be pretty messed up even for
oh man. Woo! No, God.
I feel like it's safe to rule that out.
Like, let's not have our brains explode also by the fact that Kingfisher is freaking 1,800 years old.
Yeah.
And like probably older than her dad.
And Carrion is older than him then, because Carrion is like the son of the king. I think this Carrion is the son of the king who like Kingfisher's stepdad ousted, basically.
Oh my gosh.
So I think we can, but are they related? Like, I'm struggling to see a world where they're not related, to be honest with you. Like, just knowing what we know now about the lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm struggling to not know how to
They're
not think
both certainly of the royal line, aren't they? And they do seem to have and look, we certainly know that Carrie and her have a connection, like right to the point that they're eating quiche together. Like, and she doesn't even think about it. She's not there going, "Oh, I probably shouldn't do this with you." She sort of does it anyway. Like, there's definitely a real fondness there, and whether they may be pulled together because they are blood related, or there's certainly an important connection there that I think will be explored. I have so many thoughts around the third and why the Queen Madra is trying to kill off basically everyone in the third. And I truly believe
and quarantine them and pretend like there's this awful sickness that nobody actually really has.
No.
Yeah.
I think that she's possibly trying to kill off the people that are in there. And I think that they're potentially either people that have magic, they are people that are
descended.
I'm even wondering if they're descended from the gods, because I think that there is a lot going on there. So that is a very interesting space. Yes.
I completely agree. Yeah.
So there is a bit of a discussion around the Quicksilver pools and how these were created, because the reality is that they don't know. And at one stage, Kingfisher pulls out, I think, some fey bone and says this is fey bone. They don't really know how they're created. So I think that's just a really interesting line. And I don't know if you have any thoughts around this, but that we don't know about how it all came to be, who created this, how they were used, and there's obviously this whole part of the history that has been lost, particularly in Ceres's world, but even in the Fae world, because it hasn't been used for so long and that history has somewhat been lost. I know it's all very in the dark right now. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
I don't have any thoughts right now on how the Quicksilver pools are made. But we kind of, so in that scene with the Chaos God, he says something of like, they're me, like they're all, it's like, it's not, it's like somehow connected to him. So like maybe it's his tears or like, I don't know, but it's somehow connected to the Chaos God. That's all I remember. But I don't have any like really intense theories about it right now. I wish I did, but I don't.
It's just an interesting aspect that I think we might learn more about in future books. I think there's going to be more to it. Another thing I want to talk about, which hopefully wasn't just, I don't think we got an answer to this because I still haven't double read the ending of the book. I still need to do my refresh. But Anarath Moor, the phrase Anarath Moor that they always were saying to Ceres when she was listening to the Quicksilver, you know, they just say Anarath Moor, Anarath Moor, Anarath Moor. What does this bloody mean? What does it mean? What are they chanting? Why is it important? This is just something that, like, when Sarah says it, Kingfisher is like shocked. He's shocked. He doesn't say. It seems like he knows what this possibly means, but he doesn't tell her. And then she sort of doesn't think anything else of it. But I feel like they're saying something like,
I think,
praise be to God or something.
No, didn't we find out that that crowd, that audience of the maze was shouting Anarath Moor?
Yeah.
And I think we learned what it meant. I think we learned that it meant like let us go or something like that.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. But it's definitely like I know that the crowd was shouting that, which is interesting that that's what she hears from the Quicksilver. Like are there like, is something trapped in the Quicksilver as well? Because those people shouting Anarath more from the stadium of the maze were basically, like, trapped. They couldn't die, and they just
Yeah.
had to, like, be living there, but not really alive. And
Mhm.
so, I wonder if that means that, like, the Quicksilver is actually made up of, like, the souls of
Well,
Fae or something.
yeah. Well, I kind of keep thinking about how okay, it's into another theory, but about the gods and whether this is where the gods are actually trapped because the gods disappeared. So and the next part to this is there's a discussion around the god swords. And they talk about when the god swords went silent and that Nimeril was used to be a shining silver, but since the god swords all went dormant or dead, it's blackened, it's tarnished over the centuries, and they even question if it's actually been tainted at some point. So I just thought that was a very interesting suggestion that it almost seems like the gods are trapped or dormant. I wonder if it has some kind of connection to Madra because she's this human that now has power. She's still alive. Has she managed to, per se, trap the gods and use their power to keep herself eternally youthful or something like this? Did you notice this
Well,
in the
and
book?
she's the sibling, right? She's the sister of 2 fae. So, like,
Mm,
how is she human and they're fae? That doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
Like, they're because, like, at one point, Sarah's is like, "Is she not human?" And Kingfisher's like, "No, she's definitely human."
Yeah.
Um, so maybe like, I do think we find out that Anareth Moore means something like "let us out" or "let us go" or
Yes.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But to your point, it could be the gods that she's hearing being trapped, shouting the same thing, saying, "Let us
Yeah.
out, let us free."
Yes.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of why this magic is kind of trapped right now. Like the gods, everything that was connected to the gods, the swords and everything else are all currently dormant because these gods are trapped and they can't use their power. And obviously, we know that Madra has basically killed everything like that in their world. But even in the
Mhm.
Fey world, the Quicksilver stopped and none of that happened. And obviously, if that's got something to do with the gods, that could be partly why if they're trapped it wasn't working. It could also add to why Ceres could be a god or she could be a demigod or something
Or
like that,
something.
and that's
Yeah.
why she has this metal power and that's why she is able to use it. I'm thinking about Jennifer Armentrout and how in that sometimes the gods look the same as humans, but they
Yeah.
transition on death or later or something like that.
Yeah,
But they'll
yeah,
normally have the
yeah.
normal ear and things like that. So they'll just assume they're human. And then later on, it's like, oh, psych, you're actually a god. You're a demigod. You're an actual god. You're the god of all gods.
Well, and that could be how she and Carrion are not related because, like, they're both of, like, the royal lineage somehow, but he's, like, just true fae and she is not true fae.
Yes.
He's a
Yes.
god,
Yeah, yeah. I think
and they're
another
not
thing
related.
that's interesting to outline too, though, is we still don't know enough about Kingfisher and his real line because he's also dark looks and from a royal line, and he
Yep.
could also be. We also don't really know why he has existed for all this time. And he's got Nimeril, who is basically the only sword that didn't go away, that he's
Yeah.
basically the gatekeeper. He's been protecting the realm all this time. I mean, obviously, Evelyn assumes that that they're related and that, but we don't know if he has maybe been alive a lot longer than we think. And he's actually had
Yeah.
Nimeril and he's been trying to protect the realm while he's waiting for the gods to come back. So there's every chance that he's also possibly god lineage too. So
Right, well, and, like, his dad, they're assuming he's dead, but might not be. His dad might not be dead, and, to be honest, I got the same vibes about, like, his dad and his dad's estate as I did, like, Xaden and Xaden's dad and Xaden's estate.
yeah,
Like, it was, like, this almost, like, potentially this, like, secondary royal seat that
yeah,
could challenge the main royal seat.
100%. Yeah,
And, that to me, like, I don't know, like, he might also be some kind of royal something,
yeah,
potentially.
yeah, 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 absolutely. So I think the next thing that I wanted to talk about was, well, I guess we already talked about it, but let's just give it its proper time just to really talk. It was, why is Madra still alive? These were some of the theories I had. Because first of all, they really outlined that she is human. They said she is definitely human. We kind of got it suggested that she's not Fae. Because I think first time I thought Fae. Then I considered, is she a vampire? Is she looks human, but she's actually vampire. Malcolm's turned her and she's feeding. Or as I said, my theory is maybe that she's getting magic from the gods and that has allowed her to stay eternally youthful and elicit control over that realm. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, because if she's like, if she has trapped them somehow, then that's how she's getting, staying youthful. I said this before. I'm so curious how they're related. If
Yes.
she's a human and they're both Fae. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, was she a Fae and did she get turned human? And then like maybe the gods turned her human and then like she got back at them and is now like using their power to
Yes.
still live a long Fae life, even though she's human. Like, or were they human and they got turned Fae? Like, how is that working if they're
Yes.
siblings? It doesn't make any sense. So
And
I'm super interested in that.
definitely. And what does that mean for Ceres? Because I have a strong belief that Ceres is not staying human forever. Like, I
No.
would
She's already not human. Like, I don't think
no.
I think she'll transform.
Exactly. Just how much will be the question. But like, yeah, that was definitely like a question I had coming away from it, that I was just like, I wonder whether there'll be a way for her to turn Fae. I also think about how there was a big moment where she outlines to Kingfisher that she's sterilized, which I thought, oh, that's an interesting way to like make sure they don't get pregnant in a book. Like, that's that's kind of intense.
Well, and if you are worried about the Fae or magic users getting stronger, what do? You don't let them have babies. Like,
Yes.
I think it is really interesting that she has quarantined them. She's like locked them away and she sterilizes. I hate that word. I like, it's
I
weird to
know.
say. Sterilizes all of them. Like, if you don't want like more magic users, that's what you do. So I think
Yeah.
that leads into the theory that like she's trying to lock away the magic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I wonder if Ceres does go through some kind of transformation, will that reverse that or change that? Ah!
Yes, and then she can have babies, even though I hate babies. Well, I don't hate babies.
You're so excited.
You're here first, folks. Allie hates
You're like,
babies.
wait, I don't want a pregnancy trope, but yes.
Yeah, I don't want a pregnancy trope. That's what I mean.
But you're gonna be like, yes, you can have a baby in the future when it's not on
In the
pain.
future, when the book ends.
Down the end. Yep. Just want to know that like you guys are gonna have future heirs about 200 years time when all this is.
Oh my god, that just blew my mind. Like, yeah, that's totally what's gonna happen. Is she's gonna get she'll have some kind of transformation, and then that will solve all of her little problems.
Yeah. That's my theory anyway. That's my theory.
Love
it. So I thought it was very interesting that we were shown a dragon skull in one of the earlier things. I'm just like, oh, I would almost bet that we are getting dragons. Whether that's going to have something to do with gods or Ceres and maybe god power or like proper royal line. I just don't think that was thrown in there, just sprinkled in like a little bit of, without it having some meaning. So
I agree. And what did they say? The dragons disappeared. That was the last, that skull was like the last dragon. Very like Game of Thrones-ian. Like,
yes. Yeah. You get that image from like Game of Thrones with the big dragon in the castle.
Yeah, the skull down in the dungeon or whatever.
Yes.
And I don't remember what they said, like if they were like connected to the royal line or anything. But I would imagine Ceres is gonna be the one to bring them back. Like, she's gotta be. Like, she's gonna be like the one to be able to bring the dragons back, which would be awesome.
Yes. No, I fully agree. Oh, but yes.
Think about like what like their biggest struggle with those like zombie-like creatures was that they can't die. They're like really hard to kill. They just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. What solves that?
Dragon fire.
Fly over. You have dragon fire. It's like White Walkers and dragons. you know?
I love that. I love that
Yeah,
so much.
I
Yes.
know. That would be
I
really
need that
cool.
to happen. And maybe that's where Carrion's gonna come in. Maybe he's also gonna be a dragon rider. Like if there's some kind of relation. I feel like maybe
Or
they'll
he'll
end up
bring the
both
dragons
having him
back
or
or
maybe it'll be Kingfisher. Definitely some interesting space there. Like it's
Mhm,
good. All right.
mhm, mhm.
I'm gonna talk final bits about Carrion. Okay, I know I've rambled on about him far too much in this. He really probably isn't this important, and I don't know why he's stuck in my brain. But where is this going? Why he has now turned Fae? We've just found out that he was kind of tricking her and everyone the whole time. Obviously, he had good intentions, reasons for doing that, but he's now transformed into this massive, huge royal Fae, and they've just left it on a cliffhanger. What do you
I
think about
know.
Carrion?
I I to be honest, I did not until you mentioned it, I didn't think that, like, there was any potential that the 2 of them would be together because I was just, like, so bought into the Ceres
I know. They're,
and
like, so
Quicksilver
bought into
romance,
it. Me too, but I don't know why.
but he's obviously important. He's described as being very attractive. He continues to be likable. He gets even more likable throughout the book, like, he goes from, like, you meet him and you think he might be the love interest, right? When the very,
Yeah.
very first time you
Yes.
meet him, and
Yes,
then you're
so
like, "Oh,
true.
maybe
This might be it.
not." Yeah, and so but he gets more and more likable, their relationship deepens, they become, if not friends, like, closer,
Yes.
and he knows lots of things, so I don't know, it's really, really
As
tough,
I
but,
said.
it's also really the thing that I keep going back in my head is so when she goes and meets with that god of chaos, right? He's like, "I don't know if I wanna let you and Fisher be together because you're so powerful. Like,
Mhm.
the gods aren't they're gonna watch you. The 2 of you are so powerful that you are gonna have the attention of the universe essentially,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
your bond is so strong and, like, the bond that strong really causes havoc to the universe." Um, and so it's like, okay, well, then that's obviously really important. So then
Mhm.
what happens if she's with with Carrion? Like,
No, no, no.
it's
I mean,
all
I'm
really
sure that,
confusing.
like I'm sure, like, readers would be in outroar if, like, she, like, turned around and wasn't with Kingfisher. So I think just my confusion is why has Callie made him so damn lovable when he's
Yeah,
not a main love interest? Like, because
no.
normally I need them to be a little bit more like bad so I can go, okay, like I'm now
I can get
100%
over
committed
it.
to Kingfisher.
Yeah.
Whereas I've still got this soft spot for Carrion because he's so funny and lovable and roguish. And now he's a really big fae, which really just adds some interest there. But it
And
might be interesting where that goes and whether there's some
yeah,
darkness that's going to come into this story, particularly if Kingfisher has more darkness that we haven't explored yet. I think it's just
yeah,
kind of coming to this space of going, are we in like an ACOTAR where we're currently dealing with Tamlin and Rhys Sanders just come into the picture? But then we've already got Faye mating bond and like most powerful in the world. So you'd think, nah, surely like we're not dealing with that. Surely we're dealing with more of a Zayn and Violet kind of situation where they're meant to be together forever. And we're just going to kind of see that throughout the books. But as I said, with Callie, we just don't know because we haven't had any other books from her to know where she's planning to take this and why she has kept these characters sort of open, whether it's just to explore other
yeah.
romances or that we don't know. But I'm just very interested. I think he's a very interesting character and I'm very excited to see where all of this goes.
So, Callie Hart actually has a ton of books.
Oh,
She has written, like let me go I'm just, like, Googling it really
probably
quick.
why
I,
she's
like,
a meeting
looked it
author.
up.
We're like, oh my God, it's her first book.
Yeah,
Let's go. Who's
yeah,
like
she
her other
has, like
50 books?
none of them are, like, fantasy. This is, like, her first fantasy book, but it does look like a lot of dark romance, just, like, looking at
Mhm.
the titles and the covers.
Okay.
Like, they're all, like one of them's called Riot House, and it's this, like, guy holding a chain in his mouth. Like, that's probably a dark romance.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
so, like, it would be interesting if anyone has, like, read Callie Hart's books, like, does she write Why Choose? Like, is that where it would go? Does she write, like maybe we should read some of her other books and figure out, like, what she typically
Yeah. If
does and see.
anyone is a Callie Hart expert and has read her other books, can we
Please
feel
tell us.
safe that Kingfisher and Sarah's are endgame, that
That
like
could
Carrion
be
will
the
have his own
question.
romance and she's just prepping him up to have this epic romance in another book? tell us what you think. Like, what does Callie Hart give us? Why has she kept these characters so interesting and lovable? We are just very interested to get your thoughts and opinions. So please let us know.
Yeah.
Okay. I think on that note, we're pretty done for today. So
We're pretty done. Yeah. Yeah.
let's give this book a rating. Not that I feel like it's fairly obvious, but what are you rating this book?
5 stars.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take a page out of your book. Haha, pun intended. And I would say for me, this is like getting close to the 6-star book rating.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was really excellent. Every beat for beat. Like I really, really loved it. I struggled, I had to really think of like, well, okay, what would I have, liked to see done differently? And even the thing that I came up with was like, yeah, but the book was still so good.
Yeah.
So really, really fantastic book.
Yeah. I agree. I would give it like a 5.2. I think that, I feel like it's solid 5 stars. It's even just hinting above that. The fact that I'm now reading it a second time, I'm audiobooking, and I love that. Normally, if I can read a book multiple times and I'm getting more and more out of it each time, that's a real suggestion of a 6-star book for me.
Yeah.
And I think that when this whole series comes out, that's when it's potentially going to have that potential to be a 6-star series. So I think it's really strong on that trajectory right now, and we'll just have to wait to see if what the next book's going to be like and what it's going to deliver. Yeah. Do we have any updates yet? I mean, it's still pretty early days that Quicksilver's out, isn't it? We don't have any updates on like when the next one might be coming.
No, I have heard people say online that it's like October of next year, but I haven't found that anywhere that Callie herself has said. So I feel like sometimes like rumors start on the internet and you don't really know where they come from. That would make sense just from like the timing, but that would also be a long time to wait. So I hope it's sooner.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, you heard it here. 5-star series. Highly recommend. I mean, I'm sure if you're here now, you have already read this. So please let us know your thoughts, your theories, what you think of our theories. If I'm absolutely insane that I'm still like talking about Carrion when I should just be obsessed with Kingfisher, I'm sorry. I am totally a fan of Kingfisher. I promise I don't want them to break up. I just want a why choose kind of situation, I think, at this point. Thank you so much for listening today. Please subscribe, join we're on all the Spotify, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music, we're on YouTube. You can catch us anywhere. We love to hear your thoughts, theories. Please send us comments. And thank you so much for listening today. Take care, guys, and bye.
Bye.